sales, you've got referrals, and that's an easy sale. You don't need to be good at sales to sell a referral, but most of your business is referral and word of mouth. The partnerships that you should look at are definitely other savvy agencies, strategic alliances with your tech partners. That doesn't mean you have to be an implementation agency for HubSpot, but you should at least be a part of an ecosystem that allows you to bring in ready to go business.
What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, a podcast for the agency owner that wants to scale and grow their agency faster by hearing from other amazing agency owners and tech entrepreneurs. And on today's episode, I have an amazing guest who's been a friend for a while, and we're going to talk about partnerships and how can you grow your partnerships and how can they really benefit your agency, and what are some of the top agencies out there doing with partnerships? So let's go ahead and jump into the show. Hey, Alex, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So for the people that have not heard of you yet, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name's Alex Glenn. I am the CEO founder of Partner Programs, Inc., which operates the Partner Programs Collective, the Agency Partners Collective, and Partner Hub, which is a platform purpose-built for agencies to find and manage their partnerships and go to market, if you go to market with partners, that is.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about partnerships, obviously, because I teased everybody about this in the very beginning. How are agencies really utilizing partnerships to grow, their agency?
Yeah. So, in the last 5 years, I think it's been a little bit hectic with partnerships. People are trying things out, running into walls. Some are successful, more and more successful, I think, every year, every quarter, with partnerships, that is. And it's starting to trickle down where, typically we see, big tech companies doing great partnership stuff. And then it comes into the mid-market, and then it comes into the SMB market. And then the SMB tech companies kind of work closely with the savvy digital agencies. And then the agencies are like, well, we're just getting pulled in these different directions. Why aren't we pushing? Why aren't we implementing? Why aren't we organizing and making this our thing instead of just being pulled by all these tech companies in different directions? And I think that's the big shift that's happening right now, is where savvy digital agencies that have their sales processes and operations dialed in, that's important, we'll talk about that later, are saying, let's have a partnership strategy. Let's put KPIs around it. Let's maybe even hire and develop a team around it. And let's bring partners into our go-to-market, just like our SaaS partners have with us. And that's when I think things are getting super interesting, and we're seeing some really awesome success with partnerships amongst the agencies specifically.
So give us an example of an agency doing it the right way, and how did they approach it? What kind of partners, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple. E-commerce has historically been kind of ahead of the curve in software, and I think in digital agency world as well. There's just more going on, and there's a lot they have to know and understand in order to execute a solid e-commerce go-to-market. So what happens there is an e-commerce brand will say, I got to launch, and I have 5 months to make this successful, or I land on my face, and that's the whole window. Buyers have short attention spans. So they say, okay, well, how do I make the most out of my go-to-market? Well, I have to involve partners. And think of your typical product brand, your typical influencer campaign, your typical collaboration on their go-to-market. They have to make it as successful as possible. And the e-commerce agencies saw that, and they're like, well, that is a very interesting approach. And if we're going to support that brand, we also have to bring partners to the table. So a new product that wants to make the most out of their go-to-market, they'll interview all these agencies. And agency A will say, we're the best at creative. And agency B will say, we are the best at Shopify development and SEO. But then agency C will say, we have a channel built of influencers, of other products that we brought to market, and partners that help increase the reach of that go-to-market. I'll tell you, agency C will win 9 times out of 10 on that bid because they can almost guarantee success. They'll have the track record, of course, but the reason they can almost guarantee success of that go-to-market is because of that channel that they've built, that partnership channel. So in e-commerce specifically, we see agencies, and I can name names, that do it really, really well, and they do this repeat sort of system of taking a new product to market. And one of our investors, Hawk Media, they have a venture firm that invested in Partner Hub. They do really well at this. They have a great sales system. They have a great operations system, but I think even their internal team will say, we're not the best at creative. We're not the best at strategy, at execution. We excel because of our partners. And what they did is they built a network of about 700 or so, I don't know what the active rate is, agencies in that network, other agencies that are in their partner network. And then they built a network of about 250 tech partners that are in their network. And every time, and then of course, influencers and affiliates and everything underneath. But I think the important thing is every time a new brand comes to the table, they'll put it out to their partner network and they'll say, what can you bring to the table? Can you bring extra co-marketing? Can you bring market development funds? Do you have social exposure? Send us those offers, that capability, and we'll put that in our proposal. And you'll be involved in this go-to-market if you win, according to us. Can you add value? And a lot of those relationships are white labeled, private labeled, white labeled. I think the general term is where, I'm going to maintain contact with the client. I'm going to do the budgeting. I'm going to do the proposals and the pitch and the sales and the CS, customer success. You're going to help me with creative. And then over here, you're going to help me with the development of the actual landing pages, et cetera. Maybe you over here are going to help me with the influencer management, the affiliate management, right? I'm still going to maintain the client relationship. They've built a very, very awesome process and execute on that. And again, internally, they may not be the savviest, most creative, best designers, but because they've built that channel and that system out, they're one of the most profitable agencies of their size on the planet, if not the most profitable. And they're able to launch new brands and do all sorts of stuff. That, I think, is a great example for the e-commerce folks out there. The typical partnership routine I think we see is when you are a niche agency that has demand for your execution, whatever that is, software development, web development, SEO, et cetera. You're niching down to the point where if I am another agency, I can look at you and say, we can work together on a project, and I'm not going to worry that you're going to kind of cannibalize my service offering because you're so niched down. And I like that, and I want to work with you on that. So the other types of agencies that we see doing really well with partnerships are software development and web development agencies that are not trying to get into PPC. They're not trying to get into SEO a little bit. Maybe if you're web development, you kind of have to be in SEO a little bit, but you're not trying to do everything. You're just very focused, and you're able, if you're focused and niche, you're able to open your doors to referral partnerships. And they would love to work with you because you're so good at that one thing. I think those two examples are the typical. But what about that is interesting, you think, for your audience?
Yeah, when I think about it and when I go back to, running the first agency and all the agencies that I'm seeing now, the one issue that I see, like with the Hawk example, is when you're white labeling, you're still trying to be everything to everybody, right? And there's certain companies that will work for. There's certain company, right? Like there's never a right or wrong answer. There's just two sides to every thing to figure out what's the right. Is it a square and a round hole, or a round hole and a round hole? And for me personally, we tried the white label and we tried the partnerships and that kind of stuff. And then it was just so many moving parts. What we found was there was huge turnover, not for clients, but internally from all the organizations and even us. And the best thing that worked for us was going, we're going to stay in our lane for this. Now we have strategic partnerships. And I've seen like Chris over at rankings.io, which was a member for many, many years. He grew his whole business this way of going, I'm going to stick in my lane for SEO for personal injury attorneys. And then I am going to find strategic partnerships outside that maybe do pay-per-click for attorneys, maybe do design or whatever. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to refer out 2 or 3 to those people, which now, and what you should be doing is keeping track. All right, I sent you 3 leads. Well, you should be like, you haven't sent me any. Like, okay, I'm going to go to another partner and do it. And then what happened, which was really pretty neat, was now if the client picked a firm that kind of dropped the ball, and that's what I had a lot of times when I would bring in like white label partners under us, they drop the ball and then we're blamed and then it's all our fault. Now, if I refer out, hey, you got 3 options, you picked the bad option, well, that's not my fault. You picked. So that was always the way that worked for us, but there's so many different ways as well.
Yeah, I think the important thing to note is figuring out what you're good at. And the example that I mentioned there in e-commerce, it works because they are so good at sales and operations, operationalizing this system. That's what they're good at. Most agencies out there are creative, and that's what they're good at. And they're savvy. Maybe they're great with data and analytics, but they're more creative, intellectual people, right? And while you could turn the corner and hire that great, VP that takes you into the sales system and develops that, which is what we see in larger agencies, they've eventually gotten there. I think the 90% are going to sit in that sub 20 employee, creative, strategic niche category. So if we're talking let's talk to the 90% of you that are probably listening that are in that category. So 20-ish employees, very good at 1 or maybe 2 things. Sales, you've got referrals, and that's an easy sale. You don't need to be good at sales to sell a referral, but most of your business is referral and word of mouth. The partnerships that you should look at are definitely other savvy agencies, strategic alliances with your tech partners. That doesn't mean you have to be an implementation agency for HubSpot, but you should at least be a part of an ecosystem that allows you to bring in ready to go business, right? Ready to go business is not, hey, I need more customers. Can your agency help me with that? Right? That's not ready to go business. That's a lot of selling on certain aspects and strategic and proposals and all that stuff. Ready to go is like, I need that implemented. Are you good at that? Can you do that? So I think ready to go business is necessary these days, even if you are just really good at design and creative and that's your whole thing. Still have some people on your team and some exposure in these ecosystems where you can capture the ready to go business, because that's what people are buying. And then the next step is, well, you did that for me. What's next? How do I optimize that? Then it becomes a creative, strategic sort of, now you get into the bigger proposal, the bigger margin, the custom, thing that we all want, right?
Yeah. The one thing I'll tell everybody to look out for, and I've seen this happen. So if your business is all based on word of mouth and referrals, you're very vulnerable. So let's use an example. I have no idea if the agency that we were talking about actually does this or not, but I've seen agencies do this, and preferably bigger agencies. So they'll find and white label the heck out of, like the 90%. And then that agency that's getting white labeled, their whole business is from that one agency, or a majority is. Then the agency that's giving you that work says, I want to buy you. And we all get really excited, right? We're like, like the Tommy boy, like, right? We're really thrilled. But then they go, we're your whole business. We're going to offer you X. And you're like, well, I make millions. Millions is from us. We'll take that all away, and then you'll make 0 or close to 0. and then your valuation gets slashed. So the caution that you need to look at is make sure your eggs are not all in one basket. It is amazing when you do an amazing job in creative or development and this agency is constantly using you. But just remember that in the back of your head, they can do a hostile takeover and your company would be worth zero. And then you have to build everything back up. So just, little caution there, because I've seen it happen a lot.
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough scenario. I mean, you want the business, you're taking the business, you're not going to leave the business on the table, but as you take more projects, your time and resources are getting soaked up by that one buyer, that one partner, whatever you want to call them. They're essentially a customer of yours, and they become your entire customer base. And then it comes down to negotiation, and maybe you do exit that. Okay, maybe that's something you want. We've seen that happen. Yep. Another really great agency, and this is something to think about too. If you're leaving a bigger agency, those of you listening, you may be the best PPC, whatever at your agency. We had this happen where someone that was really high up, head of a department, the most creative, strategic person in that department, left, started their own agency. They did a phenomenal job. They went from 0 to 2.5 million in 10 months, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 10 to 12 months, somewhere in there, which is pretty fast. I think we could all agree. And they're all retainers. They weren't just projects, they were retainers. And what they did is they developed partnerships with a stack of tech providers that all integrate well. They had relationships with a few of them and really went in so deep with those 5 to 10 tech partners. And so deep being, we are going to publish a case study with each and every one of you over the first 3 months. We're going to get all of these clients initiated with your tech stack, implemented with your tech stack, even if to the point where we almost have to discount the implementation services just to make sure that our entire roster are on the exact same tech stack. And important there is he did 2.5 million, not 250, 2.5 million in 10 months with an 8-person team or a 6, 7, somewhere in there person team, which is very difficult to do. And the way he did it is by making sure the entire client roster was on the exact same tech stack, buying the exact same services on the exact same social media sites. He wouldn't have been able to do it without that. And the important thing to know there is if you do work closely and have those initial wins with those first partners, they will reciprocate. And he was in this loop of referrals with these businesses because he initially brought those big fish that he took from the agency with him to those tech providers, locked down very awesome partnerships with those tech providers. And they saw that he was so focused on making sure all of his clients were on those stacks that they had no issue, their sales and CS team had no issue, no concern sending him business. No thought of like, oh, he could take it to our competitor. It was, no, we're going to send it to this guy until he is completely out of resources, and then we'll look to the next partner. But until then, this guy is closing the business, he's ramping up their spend, and he is exclusive to us. Yeah. So there is some logic there for those of you that are in that position where you're either that savvy agency that's small and you're really good at closing the business because you're so good at that one thing that you're doing. Pick a tech stack that you believe can reciprocate, that do integrate well, that are maybe not top of the category, but maybe top 3 in the category, and really double down, show them that you're doubling down, publish those case studies, and they will bring you business. And if they're not, after a couple of months, then of course, consider the next best thing.
Yeah, we always looked for the up and coming technology. So we did this with Sitefinity, we did this with Microsoft, with SharePoint, and we highly customized the hell out of their platform and then shared with them. And that's how we were able, I always look at growing and scaling an agency is really kind of a 3-pronged approach. Have strategic partners is one, but then you also have inbound and outbound. And you have to have 3 channels because then no one can pull that shit and take over your agency because, all your eggs is on one basket. Or let's say all your business is coming from Facebook ads. Well, good luck. especially when your fucking Facebook accounts get hacked. And I hate Facebook. I hate you, Mark Zuckerberg, or whatever your fucking name is. But, now they'll probably ban me, but I'm like, I don't care. I'm not on it anymore because some Asian baby company took me over. Right? Like, come on. How are you going to do that? But that's still a wound. That wound is still very, very sensitive. And I was hacked over a year ago. So I've actually calmed down quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways that partnerships can actually work. And but please, just from what Alex told you and what I'm telling you, don't rely just on one. And I love going after I feel the best partnerships for agencies, and you correct me if I'm wrong, are technology companies, like you were saying. I love technology companies because they suck at sales and marketing, but they create an amazing product. And we can bring them tons of business, and then people coming to them, they'll be like, oh, how can you customize this and make this work for me?
Yeah, I think there's definitely tons of success with the tech companies. You do have to make sure you're of that caliber of agency, because if you're under the rug, so to speak, if you're up and coming, if you haven't demonstrated the ability to close big projects and big deals and repeat retainer those deals, you will be looked at as only the tech company can provide you the value in their product, and you don't get the leads and the referrals that you see other agencies that are receiving. So a lot of tech companies, especially the bigger ones, will have the tiered system, and you won't even enter the referral round robin until you reach the top tier. But smaller tech companies, like you're mentioning, the up and comers, they need you more than you need them. They need to enter a market. You've already got business in that market. They need 50 to 500 of you. And if you are those first, 10 to 50, you will receive business, because especially in some of these verticals, they're getting so much inbound. They don't have the CS team to support that business, and they need agencies, solutions providers, in order to sell that business just for their own technology, right? So look out for those up and comers that are getting great traction, great reviews, that are well integrated, new again, and reach out to them with proposals to partner, and reach out to them with a plan of success. Oftentimes they won't have partnerships as a part of their just company in general, not a team. They don't have a process for it, but you have clients, and all you need is an agreement of sorts that talks to how you deal with those clients, put it together. What is the incentive for you? Maybe you don't care about the commissions because they're low, monthly fees for the software, and they can't really pay you enough commission, or they don't have the infrastructure to pay commission and track it. Come to them with other opportunities. Say, you know what, we're just looking for thought leadership and exposure. We want to be part of your initial expert solutions partners. We want to be on this wave of success with you, and we're willing to go exclusive with you for 6 months and try this out, and bring this many clients at least to the table to try to sell, and see what they're willing to do, and come up with that core tech stack of partners that you want to go to market with, and you're able to get enough back from to where you can say it's worth us pushing our clients to those technology providers.
Awesome. Well, this has been amazing, Alex. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge on the partnerships, and make sure everyone goes check out a Partner Hub. So thanks so much for coming on the show. And if you guys want really kind of this unfair advantage of how to really kind of destroy your competition and really avoid the biggest mistake a lot of agencies are doing in order to niche down, and really how one agency turned around from a Me Too agency to being one of the leaders in the agency, I created this free masterclass. Go to agencymastery360.com/attract. It's totally free. Go to agencymastery360.com/attract. And until next time, have a swank day.